What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to All Things Film. Today I'm here to talk about The Walking Dead, and specifically Chandler Riggs, because he opened up and talked more about his death and how he was kind of satisfied with his death. And I want to talk about this because Carl or Chandler Riggs has talked about his death before, on The Talking Dead and stuff, but he hasn't talked about it too much. And there's a Comic-Con convention going on right now, and I think it's called like Fandemic Tour in Sacramento or something like that. But there was a Q&A and people were asking him questions, and he was talking about his death. And I'm gonna go ahead and read this. Now I can't play the video because I'll get copyright reasons, but I'm reading this article off of thecomicbook.com. I'll leave it in the description down below if you want to read the whole article. But I'm gonna be reading the quotes off of this article, and I'm assuming this is pretty accurate. But he goes on and say, "I'm gonna be honest. When Scott told me how it happened, he didn't mention the whole Saviors blowing up all of Alexandria thing. He just kind of said, I went to hide in the sewers and died. And I was like, man, that does not sound cool at all." And that's kind of funny because that does not sound cool at all. I don't know how Scott brought it up to him. And here's another thing I want to talk about later on, because I think Scott and Gimple might have been a little scared to bring the news, because the news was kind of sudden for Chandler Riggs. Apparently, he heard the news while they were filming episode 6, and that's when he got bit. Like when they were doing rehearsals for episode 6, that's the episode he got bit. So I'm sure that must have been a big shocker for Chandler. Like, he's just doing rehearsals, and then Scott and Gimple pulls him aside and like, look, buddy, you're gonna die. So I don't know if Scott and Gimple was kind of scared. And that's the thing with Scott and Gimple. And I'm one of those people who kind of sympathizes, and not, I mean, that's probably not the right word, but I'm one of those people who kind of I'm not against Scott and Gimple. I don't really think he's responsible. One man isn't responsible for Carl's death. I think there's a number of reasons, and him kind of waiting for the news for Chandler Riggs to leave the show, I think maybe, I don't know, because it's kind of odd, because if Chandler Riggs didn't have a contract, did he have a contract for season 8 or what? Maybe AMC didn't want to pay the kid, and then Scott and Gimple had to broke the news to him. I don't know how this shit works, but I just don't blame Scott and Gimple 100%. Maybe a little bit, but I think there's a lot more to it than we know. But anyways, moving on. He says, but then when I read episode 8, I was like, oh, okay, there's huge explosions, there's solar panels being blown up, churches blown up, houses exploding. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm satisfied. And yeah, episode 8 was a pretty good episode. It did, from the comics, it did a pretty good job from the comics, explosions and stuff. I can't even speak English right now. In the comics, though, they threw grenades. In this one, they kind of had like grenade launchers, I think it was. I don't know exactly. I kind of forgot. But yeah, it was a pretty cool episode. All the explosions and stuff. I remember when they were filming this episode, people would like sit outside of Alexandria and Sonoy and just watch. Like, I wish I could do that. I mean, I wish I had the opportunity to go there at that, but I just didn't. But that would have been pretty cool to see that during filming. But anyways, moving on. He was also talking about how he jokes about Carl's death a lot on social media, which he does. But he said, I'm not bitter about it. He said, I joke about it, but I'm not really bitter about it. And I don't think Chandler Riggs has any grudge against AMC, because he's still doing conventions and still doing stuff. It's been 6 months. He's not under contract anymore. He's literally a free man. He can say or do whatever he wants. AMC can't do anything to him, and he hasn't said anything bad about them. So, I think he still has respect for AMC and the people, and I'm sure he has long life friends on the show, like Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus and Lauren Cohan and Denai Guerrero. I'm sure they're all great friends, and I don't think he's bitter about it. But I've never really heard him. I mean, I heard him talk about it on The Talking Dead, but that's about it. I just kind of found this interesting, this article. Moving on, he also talked about the couple last episodes, the final 2 exactly. He said it's more than an innocent way to go out. That's kind of what Carl is really embodying in these last 2 episodes, and it really just kind of sums up Carl as a person and proves that he knows that there is something after the war, and it's not just killing and killing and killing and killing. There's got to be some sort of hope for Judith and for Maggie's baby and everybody. Now this I disagree with, because I don't understand it. I just simply don't understand why Carl had this change of character from the season 8 finale to the season 7 finale to the season 8 premiere. Because in the season, sorry, I heard something outside. I paused for a second there. But in the season 7 finale, Carl was literally the guy who shot the first shots of the war. He shot he started shooting the saviors. He started the war, and essentially he started all-out war. And he was the one who was begging his dad, like, we can't just sit here. And he, even way back in season 3 and 4, he would always want to fight. Yeah, he was a kid then, but I just don't get his change of heart. maybe something happened, because in the season 8 premiere, he was just automatically talking about, we need to help people, and maybe he just had an overnight thing, and they didn't really do a good job of showing it on screen. But when he did die, he was talking about, he kind of feels bad for killing, and he thinks there should be a future, and he's right. There should be a future, but I just feel like that change from character was just way too sudden for Carl, and maybe they should have done a better job of kind of slowing that down. But another thing I want to talk about is that he was also talking about, and this is a quote that he actually said during this pandemic tour. He said, "I found out we got the script for episode 6 when the bite was supposed to happen." That's when he finds out. We were doing rehearsals for it, and then after rehearsals, Scott M. Gimple brought me in and he told me and then he said, like, that's why you kind of act weird after your trip, because the bite happens. And I think Scott M. Gimple was kind of scared to break out the news, because I don't know if Chandler had a contract for season 8, because most people know when they're gonna die, if they're gonna die that season. But for Chandler, it seemed like he didn't even know he was gonna die. Like, Scott M. Gimple just brought him aside and be like, "Sorry, bud, you're gonna die." Because I know Chandler's contract expired, and at the end of season 7, so it makes sense for him to die in season 8, just like maybe Andrew Lincoln's contract runs out at the end of season 8, maybe he dies in season 9, who knows. The same thing with Lauren Cohan. So I know Chandler Riggs' contract was expired at the end of season 7, so him dying in season 8 makes sense. But it's kind of odd how the news was really unexpected for him and for us. So, it's just kind of interesting, and it kind of makes, it just makes this whole thing much more questionable, because us fans, sometimes we don't know what's happening, but for them it seems like they didn't really know what was happening either. But then to finish off, he did say that but regardless, it was great being on the show. I'll definitely miss being part of it, but being able to go and do other roles and do so many other things I wasn't able to do when I was in the show was really, really cool. And yeah, Chandler Riggs is on more movies now. He makes good music. He actually makes some pretty good music. I've listened to it before. And yeah, Chandler Riggs is a talented dude. And it would have been cool to see Carl stick around for a couple more seasons, because it is the Carl show, but it is what it is. I quickly wanted to make this video talking about Chandler Riggs and his thoughts on Carl's death, because he doesn't talk a lot about it. It happened about like almost 7 months ago, and he only really talked about it in The Talking Dead in a couple interviews, but he actually opened up about finding out, and he seems okay with it. I'm one of those people who believe Carl's death was alright. The way it was presented to us was alright, because the way he died, getting bit, was ridiculous. The way he tripped and got bit, yeah, that's ridiculous too. But I think the whole episode they dedicated to him in episode 9, when I thought he had a nice send off, talking to his dad and Michonne, and the final couple in the end there, when he kind of shot himself and then he talked to his dad before he did. I thought there was good dialogue. I thought he had a nice send-off, but I just wish it didn't happen. But the way it was presented to us, it was an alright send-off, and I'm satisfied with it. And yeah, we're gonna have to wait for season 9, because Carl's dead. Who knows? Rick could be dead, but I'm not gonna go on and talk about Rick for another 20 minutes, because that could last forever. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up there, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation, or what you guys thought about Chandler leaving the show, what you guys thought about Chandler, about Carl, about Scott M. Gimple. I know there's a lot of people with strong opinions about Scott M. Gimple, but yeah, hope you guys did enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. It's been All Things Film, and until next time, peace.